The water was like a cool, dark mirror, reflecting a sky I could barely see through the thick emerald canopy. My name is ELARA, and that day the Amazon River felt like my own private kingdom. The current was a gentle hand, guiding my small boat through a world teeming with unseen life. I'd been here for weeks, a lone researcher charting forgotten tributaries, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. A flash of iridescent blue darted just beneath the surface, something far larger than any fish I'd ever seen. It was mesmerizing. I leaned over, my fingers tracing the water, trying to get a closer look. And that's when I felt it. Not a pull, but a sudden chilling stillness. The birds went silent. The hum of the jungle died. A primal fear, cold and sharp, pricked my skin. The water rippled, not from the current, but from something rising. A face painted in symbols of ochre and charcoal broke the surface just feet away. Then another and another. Silent figures, their eyes ancient and unreadable, emerged from the river itself, surrounding my tiny boat. They were the river's ghosts, the whispered legends of the deep jungle, and I was completely, utterly at their mercy. They moved with a fluidity that was both beautiful and terrifying, lifting me from my boat as if I weighed nothing. There was no struggle, no sound. It was like being caught in a dream. They guided me through the water and onto the riverbank, into a part of the forest my maps didn't know existed. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth, exotic blossoms, and wood smoke. We walked for what felt like hours, deeper into the labyrinth of giant roots and hanging vines. Finally, the dense foliage opened into a clearing. A village, unlike anything I could have imagined, pulsed with a quiet, rhythmic energy. Huts woven from palm fronds and clay stood in a circle, and at its center a bonfire crackled, sending sparks dancing toward the twilight sky. The people of the village stopped what they were doing, their gazes falling upon me not with hostility, but with a profound, unnerving curiosity. I was an anomaly, a creature from a world they only knew through whispers on the wind. An elder, a woman with skin like wrinkled parchment and eyes that held the wisdom of 1,000 years, approached me. She didn't speak my language, but her gestures were clear. She pointed to a woven mat near the fire, an invitation. Hesitantly, I sat. The villagers formed a circle around us. They weren't threatening. They were watching, waiting. The old woman began to chant, her voice a low, melodic hum that resonated with the very heartbeat of the jungle. Others joined in, a chorus of voices that seemed to weave a story into the air itself. They weren't just singing. They were communicating something vital. I couldn't understand the words, but I felt the meaning in my bones. It was a story of the river, of the forest, and of a sacred balance that had been kept for generations. A young boy brought me a wooden bowl filled with a warm, nutty broth and fruits I'd never seen before. It was an offering of peace, an act of grace that shattered my fear and replaced it with awe. I was their captive, yes, but I was also their guest. Days turned into a week. I learned their rhythms, their customs. They called themselves the children of the water lily, and they believed the river was the lifeblood of the world, a living god. They taught me how to read the forest, how to find medicine in leaves and food and roots. I showed them pictures on my solar-powered camera, images of my world of metal towers and paved rivers. They looked at them with the same wonder I felt looking at their village. The old woman, whose name was YRA, became my teacher. Through a complex language of gestures and drawings in the dirt, she told me why they had brought me here. They had seen a sickness in the river, a poison seeping from the world of men. They believed I was a sign, a messenger from that world who could understand their plea. They hadn't captured a prisoner. They had summoned an ambassador. The iridescent blue creature I had seen was their guardian spirit, and it had led them to me. On the 8th day, Yara led me back to the river. My boat was there, untouched, filled with fresh fruit and water for my journey. She placed a single perfectly carved wooden feather in my hand. Her eyes met mine, and in that silent gaze, a promise was made. I wasn't just a researcher anymore. I was a witness. I had to tell their story, to carry their message from the heart of the Amazon back to a world that had forgotten how to listen. As I pushed my boat back into the current, the entire village stood on the bank, not as my captors, but as my family. Their farewell chant followed me down the river, a beautiful haunting melody of hope. I was leaving the jungle, but a part of it, a vital living part, would now be with me forever. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more adventures.